Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of BizzTalk. And this is our sustainable entrepreneurship sessions. We've had a few of these, and we're really excited for this one today. I have a really cool guest with us today, Babajide, who is representing his company, Ecotutu. Yeah, or
Yeah,
how do you say
yeah.
how do you say the company name?
I mean, that sounds very correct.
It's good. Okay,
So
perfect.
you got the 10 over 10 on this.
That's right. There we go. And today we're learning about his company. We're also talking about the topic of sustainable cooling technologies, which really piques my interest because this isn't something that I've heard of before. So I'm really, really interested to learn about it. So could you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself?
Okay, I mean, a bit about me. So my name is Babajide Oluwase. I I run a company called Ecotutu, and simply what we do is we design, develop, and deploy cooling technology solutions. So particularly, we target businesses in the agriculture and food value chain. And we want to enable these businesses for their cold chain need right from the point of production to they're able to get the produce to the doorstep of final consumers like you and me. So pretty much that's me, and that's what I do with Ecotutu. Then on the other side, I also get to do a bit of consulting around sustainability generally, and helping some other eco-focused businesses, right, be able to put in place sustainability strategies and framework for them to really run a truly sustainable business. Yeah.
Wow, excellent. Excellent. Now, how long have you been doing this?
Running the company or providing advisory on sustainability process, which of them?
Both. Yeah.
Both of
How long have you been involved in the space? How did you get there? What made you decide to get into this industry? Tell me more.
Yeah, great. I mean, I've got to answer this question like times and times and times again. I mean, why did you start this? At what point did you get into this? And the whole journey for me started when I was in secondary school. That maybe you call high school, maybe in the US or other countries. Um, so that was when I got into it. And so as a result of, I think the governor of Lagos State at the time brought this program to secondary schools called the Climate Change Club, and I was opportune to be part of the pioneer members, and that was the first avenue where I got to learn or get to know what we call climate change, and why it's important for all of us to act, right? And right from there till I got into the university, so I was able to learn more about it. Then also my course of study, which is urban and regional planning, also gets to do a bit of things around environment, sustainability, uh, better planet, and all of those interesting things, right? So I was able to also meet with like minds in the course of my program during my undergrad days, and we were able to really see that we all of us have interest in that area. And so we done quite a couple of things, right from advocacy, empowerment, and all of those interesting things. And so that happened till the end of my program as an undergrad. And I mean, of course, with more knowledge and better understanding about the subject, I realized then that we keep talking to people, we keep educating people about what is not right for the environment, what alternative are we providing, or what other alternative do people have access to for them to use. I mean, you say don't cut down trees, don't do this, don't use that, it's harmful for the environment. Then what are the alternatives that people can use? And that sort
Right.
of switched my thinking a bit from just advocating, educating, and all of those interesting things to start thinking about creating solutions, creating alternatives. And so that was how I got myself into the business side of sustainability. And yeah, I mean, I saw a gap for the food chain in Nigeria. I saw how much food I ends up as waste. And yes, so the environmental side of me was very much interested in cutting down on that because I know how much food waste that leads to, yes, methane gas generation that goes into the atmosphere. And yeah, that's from the environmental side. Then how much of economic value is being lost in the process. So yes, so I saw that addressing the issue of food wastage would provide solution from two angles, and that's helping the environment by cutting down food waste, and also helping the people that deal with this food to be able to make more economic returns on their effort. And so that's been it.
No, that's good. That's good. So we really, it comes down to, I mean, a passion for doing good, but also finding a gap. Like you said, there was a gap. There's clearly a need. And I think we also do a show that's very focused on just Africa, not just sustainability in general. And it is interesting. This isn't the first time that we've heard about the issue of food waste, and specifically as it relates to cooling. So it's amazing that you're trying to solve this problem really well. Are there others in your space that are trying to solve the same problem? Is there kind of is there some competition, or is this really just maybe a few people that are trying to solve it? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sure there are a lot of players trying to get their foot in the space. So we have some that are major competitors, and then we have the ones that are just also trying to solve the problem, but maybe not so major at the major level, right? I mean, it's just about talking about issue of food generally, food production. I mean, we all need to eat. We need food to grow and all of that. Same way, we need to be able to provide solutions that can enable us to be able to maximize the amount of food that we produce, right? So, I mean, simply put, we have major players also trying to do their bit in that space.
Okay, excellent. Now, what would you say makes you guys different? Why Ecotutu?
Great. The issue of food waste is not, I mean, has been around for a very long time. I mean, history also gets to also validate that. And also trying to solve the problem. So there's been a lot of effort from different stakeholders at different points in trying to solve this problem. But one of the major things that we saw and that really got us into this space, I mean, when we identified the problem, we saw huge economic opportunity, we saw areas to make impact and all of those things. But yes, we ask ourselves, what do we need to do? What do we still need for us to be able to address this problem in a more sustainable way that has not been done? And it borders more on issue of affordability. Yes, we talk about cold chain. Cold chain is not new, but a lot of people still cannot access cold storage solutions. As much as they know they need it for their businesses, many of them can't still afford it well enough for them to run their business. And that's where we sort of get into play. And so beyond just affordability now, we also have come to realize that the issue of access to cold storage is not a one-off thing, right? It's a chain. So it's a cold chain. And so when you have a chain, it's a network of code activities from the beginning till it gets to the end, right? So what we currently have do not really represent that chain across board in a way that is accessible and affordable to everyone that needs it. And that's where we set to play. So we are ensuring affordability with our solutions and also ensuring that we're able to provide a chain network of cold storage solutions right from the point of production until it gets to the table of final consumers. So again, what stands us apart? I mean, real affordability and also providing a chain network while still maintaining the affordability for everyone.
Excellent. Wonderful. Appreciate you sharing all that with me. Okay, well then let's maybe move into just the topic in general. So sustainable cooling. What does that look like? What does sustainable cooling look like? Tell me maybe a little bit about how it's been done in the past versus how it's being done now.
Okay, yeah. So before I delve in a bit into sustainable cooling, I mean, it's important that maybe we sort of break the two words apart. So you have sustainable and then you have cooling. So cooling has been around, I mean, from even before my parents were born. I'm sure cooling
Sure.
has been there for different purposes. And the traditional cooling as we know it, not everyone has access to it. And the reason
Right.
is quite clear, especially for developing countries like Nigeria. I mean, talking about it is largely energy dependent, right? So you need energy non-stop for you to be able to power the conventional cooling solutions. And in a space or in a country or in a region where people are still people can still get power to do the basic things like as much as little as lightning, right? Or as little as maybe even like cooling for fans and all those basic things. People can still get lightning for them to be able to do those things as much as they wanted. And so meaning that the energy requirement to run refrigerator is already in context with other uses because then you get to prioritize. Right. So I mean, so these are like the layers of the issue. So we have traditional refrigerators or cooling systems that are largely dependent on energy for it to power like non-stop. So people do not have access to the electricity in the first place. So that's it is challenge. That's a big issue. And on the other end, we talk about sustainability, right? And sustainability, as we know it, or as it should be, is about for people, for profits, and for the planet, right? So when it tilts towards one end and the other, then it's not sustainability at all. There has to be a balance. There has to be a balance in the way that what is the impact of the environment? Is it something that makes sense? Is it something that enable the environment to be better? What does it mean in terms of impact on people? Is it something that people can have access to when they need to? Is it something that people will be able to use? And that's where we look at the impact on people. And also impact on profit. Is it something that is affordable for everyone? I mean, if it's affordable for very few people, then I mean it's not sustainable enough. You should be able
Right.
to go around. And that's it. So how do you now ensure these three elements under sustainability? How do you ensure it's in place for you to drive cooling for
Okay.
everyone that needs it? And so this is where these two concepts come. So meaning that we're talking about cooling solution that is favorable to the planet's environment, right? That doesn't harm the environment, that doesn't harm the community where you're using it, maybe for the immediate or the long-term basis. We're talking about cooling solution that is accessible and affordable for everyone, irrespective of their socioeconomic class. So far, they know they need that particular solution. And we're talking
Right.
about a solution that's yeah, so affordable from the profit side and accessible for everyone that needs it from the social side. And that's where sustainable cooling comes into play.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about affordability, I mean, with the kind of cooling systems and processes that we're talking about now, I mean, how much more affordable are they? I mean, how much, I mean, maybe just from like a percentage standpoint, what does that look like?
Because in terms of what it looks like, I mean, you look at the traditional mode, which is like widely in place now. I
Mhm.
mean, the typical model is you need a particular solution, you pay for it, you get it, and you own it, right? But there are different models now that drives around even this sustainability thing in itself, right? So you talk about the sharing economy, so meaning that you don't even have to own this particular item completely for you to be able to use it, right? And that's where we have a model like the pay as you store, right? Which we also drive at Ecotutu. So pay as you store meaning that for smallholder farmers, for aggregators, for market women and men that need cooling for their business, they necessarily do not need to buy the cooling solution outrightly if they don't have the means or if they don't have the money. Or
Right.
sometimes they don't even need to buy it 100% sometimes because maybe something like you use on seasonal basis, right? So maybe you need for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Maybe you don't need again for another 2, 3, 4 weeks or 1 month or 2 months, right? And so that's where the sharing model of the pay as you store. So you only pay for the amount of produce you want to store per time, only when you have the produce to store, right? That helps us drive down the point of accessibility. So you don't need to invest in solar powered cold room solar powered Ecotutu hub for you to be able to have access to cold storage facilities. You don't need to go get okay, so I think I talked about that from the other point. So yeah, so that's one of those ways which we are driving accessibility for these cold storage solutions, right? So what that means is that the cost of being able to access that service is very much minimal, right? It is flexible for you. So you only know when you want to make money, you want to store your produce for a period of time. That's when you have to pay a token affordable enough for you for that period, right?
Right.
So that's from the accessibility standpoint. From the environmental standpoint, right? So now the conventional way of using a refrigerator, I mean, in the case of a pelleted power supply, is for you to depend on maybe diesel generator or PMS generator, of course, which you know how much carbon is being emitted in the process of you powering your cooling facility. And that takes away that element of something that is eco-friendly away from the equation. But here we talk about one of the most abundant renewable energy sources, which is the sun, right? So retrofitting solar panels on the cold storage facility, you get energy from the sun, then the sun powers the cold storage facility, and you're able to deliver the service, right? So what that means is that you do not need to depend on the dirty energy source for you to be able to power this cooling solution for these businesses. So that also makes sense from the environmental standpoint. And then when you look at the life cycle of most of the components that drive the solar powered Ecotutu hub, they are materials that the lifespan of this span between the period of 8 to 20 years, right? So talk about the panel, talk about for the inverted one, talk about that for the material itself, for the code. So it's something that can be, the usage can be extended for a long period of time, right? And then they are also thinking, there are thought process in place to see when this material gets to the end of life, how do we reuse it for other things? How do we recycle? And I know a lot of interesting initiatives are also going on in different corners of the world, but now we can get to reuse and recycle some of these energy equipment that we're generating. I mean, so that's how we sort of demonstrate the sustainable cooling in its true sense, right? And ensuring access for those that readily might not be able to afford it through our pay-as-you-go option. That's one. Then also ensuring that we depend on energy source that is to a very large extent better or cleaner for the environment. And from the social standpoint too, I mean, businesses can, the more they're able to store, the more they remain in business, because I mean, they're sure of them possibly eliminating wastage completely, and the more returns they're able to make back and be able to improve their livelihood.
I love the way that you're looking at sustainability as a whole package, holistically, rather than, just, oh, well, it just needs to be sustainable for the environment. You're looking at it from affordability, from a business standpoint, from a social standpoint. You're looking at all of it as one package of sustainability. And so I love that so much. Now you're also consulting with other companies on sustainability. Does that consulting go beyond just cooling?
Yes, it goes beyond cooling. And I mean, the need I identified in that area is, I mean, just like what you said earlier, around how we get to think about sustainability. I mean, that was what really got me interested in. I mean, there's a lot of work that we still need to do for those of us advocating for sustainability in its true sense. I didn't just arrive here one morning or one night. It's also as a result of upskilling myself, trying to even know better around this whole thing that I've gotten myself involved with. What really makes sense, getting the true knowledge. And it was in the course of seeking for knowledge, upskilling myself, that I got to learn that, I mean, sustainability goes beyond just we saving the environment, right? Whilst we're saving the environment, we also need to save businesses. We also need to ensure we consider interests of people, stakeholders, and all of that. And that was what informed that thought. And so I realized that there are a lot of organizations that are sustainability focused, right, in quotes, but do not really understand sustainability in its true sense, just like what we've talked about, right? I mean, some of them are even in the energy space. So, I mean, they leverage solar to generate electricity. And then because they use solar to generate electricity for people or community that they are a sustainable company, right?
Right.
And we now need to start helping them realize that it goes beyond just using solar, right? To generate clean energy, to distribute to homes or to businesses, right? This is what sustainability really means. So cutting across the three pillars which I talked about. And I mean, quite interesting to see how open these companies too are in terms of adopting this thinking and also integrating it into their work. I mean, that sort of also makes sense. And what this helped me believe in is that we are building a chain of really sustainable businesses from the cold chain angle, energy generation angle, material production angle, supply chain angle, and a whole lot of other interesting spaces where we get to engage with.
I love it. I love it. Now I'm going to throw you another kind of curveball question. It's not really about cooling necessarily, but it's just something that I've observed, right? I said we have a lot of guests from Africa specifically, and Africa's huge, right? So many countries, so many different cultures, and some, I would say most facing similar problems, that need solutions. But what I found so interesting is that Africa seems to be leading the way in sustainable solutions. Why is that? Why are so many sustainable solutions, and that mindset of holistic sustainability? Why are we seeing that coming from Africa so much and not from, anywhere else? Why?
Well, I mean, the fact that you
It's
say we
kind of
have
a
a
big
lot of
question. I don't know if it has a right answer or not. It's just curiosity. I just keep seeing it.
I mean, I'm now equally curious to say, like, does Africa really has a lot of sustainability solutions like you just talked about it now? And it's something I really love to still read about. I mean, maybe you have some materials that could also point me to seeing that scale of sustainability. So it's something I would also like to feed on. But for the crop of startups and businesses that are coming up today, from Nigeria to Ghana to Kenya to other African countries, one thing that I know for sure, right, is the fact that we are getting to understand that building businesses or solving problems can also have other impacts beyond just solving that problem, right? So I would say the crop of entrepreneurs that are coming up today, I mean, people of my age, maybe older than me, or people that maybe a bit older than, I mean, there's this consciousness around how you should build your business. I mean, we have a lot of trainings all over the place for anyone that is open to learn. And the kind of economy that the world runs today, I mean, you agree with me that it's not the same 10 years ago or 20 years ago, right? The way people were thinking generally at that point in time is there's a shift to the way we are thinking now. I mean, now you want to start a business, you want to run a company, you now need to start thinking about environment, right? I mean, what does this mean for the environment? Maybe 10, 20 years ago, there wasn't much thinking, there was maybe no thinking or much thinking around that. Maybe people just wanted to solve problem at the time and make money, right? Solve problem, make profits, increase revenue, and that's it. But now there's a lot of conversation going on around how do we protect the planet, right? How do we get the marginalized more involved? How do we make the world more inclusive? How do we close the gender gap? How do we close the knowledge gap? How do we close the opportunity gap? How do we close the funding gap, right? So there's a lot of consciousness around so many important issues now that as an entrepreneur, I mean, if you really want to position your company and yourself as a forward-thinking one, then you need to consider most of these elements, right? I mean, if by now you want to start a company in whatever space, and you're not thinking about what impact will this have on the environment, or how inclusive will my company or our activities, how inclusive will it make our communities be? Or will it cause more diversity? Will it cause more exclusion or all of this? Because I mean, when you talk about raising funds today, investors are even getting more aware, right? Talk about ESG lately, so environment and social governance and all of this. Do you have a sustainability plan in place? Do you have these? How do you take care of your stakeholders? How do you measure your materiality? All those very interesting things that people were not thinking about 10, 20 years ago. And so for anyone that wants to start and run and build a sustainable business today, you need to pay attention to those things. And so maybe consciously or subconsciously, those things now fit into a lot of things: your strategy, your business model, your operational plan, and even how your company culture in itself. And I think that's why we have, and Africa has a lot of companies coming up today because we've realized that we need to take our solutions into our hands, right? We don't need to wait for any messiah from anywhere to come help us solve our problems. I mean, we live with the problem. We see what the problem looks like on a daily basis. We sometimes experience these problems. And so we believe that we are the best solutions to our problems, right? And so more young people are also getting more interested in that area. I mean, right from school, people are already coming up with solutions. I mean, really interesting solutions that solves real problems and are really viable. And maybe that speaks to why we have more companies. And because of the peculiarity of the time we are in, I mean, we need to put all those things into consideration, like I said, sustainability, inclusion, diversity, and all those amazing stuff. Yeah.
No, I love it. Again, it's just an observation. And I think the observation that I'm seeing is maybe it's not necessarily that it's just Africa as a continent that's leading sustainability. I think maybe for me, it's where it's coming from. It's the movement for sustainability is from entrepreneurs. Whereas I look at the US, my own environment, most of the sustainability efforts that I see are coming from government or nonprofit. I don't see as much from entrepreneurs. I see it, but it seems like it's a more dominating thought process with entrepreneurs in Africa. I just think it's really cool. So and
I think the reason for that is, I mean, you're right to a very large extent. I mean, to an extent, I've seen what it looks like in some part of Europe, and I see how much government gets to be vested in most of these activities, and also helping young people or organizations to drive the process, right? I mean, governments in Africa, I mean, some of them are doing their bits, even though there's still a lot more that needs to be done. But I think the thing now is many of us are not waiting for the government anymore, right? Even though we know that we need the government, I mean, for us to really grow and scale more, because I mean, if you are building without the government, no matter how large or how big you've been able to build your company or your brand, I mean, one government policy, one money can just bring everything down, right? And so we really need the government to work with us.
There before.
Exactly. I mean, so we really need the government to work in collaboration with everyone. But I think the cause for this is maybe before now, a lot of people were sitting back and saying, okay, hopefully maybe the government will wake up one morning and decide to help us with this particular solution. But now the thinking is shifting, and it's shifting at a very rapid pace, right? We don't need to wait for the government. You identify a problem, you think you can build a solution around it, then go ahead and build it. I mean, for you can go big, and government can even identify you in the course of doing that and say, hey, young man or young lady, we see what you're doing. I want to work with you to grow this. I mean, that happens, and and so maybe that also speaks to why we have a lot of startups and companies springing up here and there.
I love it. Again, it's something that I've really only been able to be around it since we've been doing these shows for the last 8 months or so. But I'm blown away. I really love it. It's inspiring. So we're actually out of time. I didn't think we'd run out of time that fast. There's so much more that I want to talk to you about. Would you want to come back? Could we do another show here in the near future and dive more? Because there's definitely more to talk about, and that went really fast.
I mean, time goes really fast when you're having fun.
That's right. When the conversation's interesting and engaging, right? It's just
exactly.
But okay, awesome. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. It's been nice to get to know you and just kind of see, you have a lot of passion for sustainability as a concept. I can see that. And that passion definitely is going to impact a lot of people. I can see it. So
thank you.
Once again, thanks for being on the show today. Let's definitely have you back again. And just for last thing for our audience, how can they get in touch with you if they want to talk to you about sustainability, or they'd like to hire you as a consultant, anything what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, I think the fastest way would be LinkedIn. So So my name, Babajide Oluwase. Would I just, even if you type down Google too, you get to see some of the platforms I get to belong on, and you can just access me from there. But LinkedIn is faster, yeah, I think.
LinkedIn is awesome. I
Yeah.
love LinkedIn, and
Yeah, I know,
it's
right?
it's the key, I think, to business in this day and time right now, is especially on a global scale. Being able to work globally, LinkedIn is key. So again, all right, I'm gonna let you go. I promise.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks again for being here. Let's have you
It's a
back again.
pleasure.
And
All right.
to our audience, thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.